Greetings and felicitations.
Hip, hip, hurrah, tally-ho.
Okay, The Man Who Fell to Earth. David Bowie movie, 1976. This was an interesting viewing, to say the least. What do you think about it, baby doll?
All I can say is interesting.
Yeah, it was... We walked into it knowing it was an art film. Neither of us saw this before.
Right.
Read about it in Starlog magazine. And you know the rule. If they talk about it in Starlog, we're compelled to watch it.
Darn. Okay.
Because Starlog magazine's just the absolute standard for everything we like in life.
Well, Starlog just reported on what was current. Well,
yes.
And some older things too.
Yeah.
So they reported on this at a time when it was current, right?
Yes. So we said, okay, let's watch it. We went into it knowing it was an art film. So we knew it wasn't a traditional science fiction film like all the others that we've seen. The premise is David Bowie. He is an alien, lands on Earth, and he's trying to transport water to his home planet.
So we understand the reason he came to Earth is for the water, because his planet has dried out. Mm-hmm. They show the scenes on his planet, and it's a desert world.
Yes.
Yeah, nothing but sand.
All right, let's talk about the facts. Directed by Nicholas Roeg. It was based on a book by Walter Tevis, The Man Who Fell to Earth, starring David Bowie, Rip Torn, Candy Clark. This is the surprising part, that the music was not by David Bowie, but instead primarily by John Phillips, who's known to be a member of the Mamas and the Papas. To me, that was a big disappointment, because this movie, 1976, David Bowie was at his peak. He already had Young Americans, Diamond Dogs, Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust. Even if he didn't release any new music for the movie, I would be happy as can be if he took some of his back catalog and put it in there. But logistical reasons did not allow that.
And I understand contractual reasons.
Yes.
So it was his movie. He was a musician, but they couldn't use his music in it.
It was released on March 18th, 1976 in the United Kingdom. The budget was $1.5 million. It's considered a cult classic. I know there's quite a few people that absolutely love this movie. Just like a lot of art movies, it has its own niche audience. David Bowie, anything he's in. I mean, the first movie I ever saw with him in it was Labyrinth. He's not in a lot of movies, but the MTV era of David Bowie was fantastic. Let's Dance.
He had a lot of hits in the 80s.
He did. He has such a unique look. 2 different color eyes, very angular jaw, little fangs. So, I mean, he's beautiful in his own way. So, I think just having him on screen as such a unique presence.
He looked good in the movie. He looked alien and at the same time, approachable. I mean, he looked human enough, but he was good looking enough to carry it off, to be an alien and to almost be above everyone else the way he was in the movie.
And he's so lithe.
Yes.
You know what I mean? They showed him without a shirt on, and even got to see him totally naked. What did you think about that?
I mean, it was a surprise, and I mean, because like, what did he do in Labyrinth? Well, wore the tight pants.
Yeah, but he had his junk like really hanging out in your face in Labyrinth.
So in this movie, and then you get to see it all, and the scenes were beautifully made. I have to say, the pacing was unusual. Him trying to get money. So we've seen that trope before, aliens trying to get money on planet Earth. So I like how it began. I thought the story was interesting, how this girl is hooking up with him. I mean, he met someone and they, appeared to be right for each other. I mean,
and she didn't know that he was an alien, but she still fell for him, and he, I mean, like, she must have been the only one that he had ever been interested in that he met on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, but of course he had a wife and kid back home.
Mm-hmm.
But somehow to him, you know, it was okay to him to have a relationship with a woman on Earth.
With the exception of the plot, that being he came to Earth and he wanted to get water back, the bulk of the movie is more of a character story and a drama of human relationships. It's not very sci-fi-ish.
It wasn't, and I mean, it just the scenes back on his home planet. I mean, that looked alien enough, but then when you come to Earth and it's you know, a lot of nudity. I mean, and not just with David Bowie, you know, like him and his girlfriend in the movie, but plus the other guy with all his girls. And
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there was, you know, so there was a lot of the romps, the naked romps in the movie.
You can tell this is a 70s movie because that was something that was just popular in the 70s of, wow, we could throw nudity in cinema, so let's just do it.
But the look was surreal. And it was meant to be that way because he was supposed to be drunk through a lot of the movie, and so he was having these visions, and he would be you know not right in the head, and so it was like the way he saw things. So they gave the movie this weird appearance, and it had the right effect for this movie.
Yeah, I think a lot of it was very visually. The alien planet parts I liked a lot because it felt alien. Even the way they made David Bowie look, Candy Clark look. And if you didn't notice, it was the same woman on Earth that was his girlfriend was playing his wife on the other planet. They made her up pretty good to change her features. There are elements to it that I liked a lot because of that. I like the 70s science fiction movies. How many times have we said it? There's science fiction before Star Wars and after Star Wars.
Yes.
Before Star Wars had that surreal element, that thought-provoking element. Once Star Wars came out, everything was about action and adventure.
And this one, you could tell because it was more of a study of the people, not much action or adventure, or not much adventure, we'll say.
So this is a type of movie, as a kid, I wouldn't have liked it. I would have liked to see David Bowie. That would have been the selling point. As an adult, though, I did enjoy it. It was so curious in so many ways. I did like at the end of the movie, he's walking by a rack of records, and one of his albums is in there, in the record store. So, I mean, there's little Easter eggs there, here and there.
So David Bowie said later that he was on cocaine when he made this movie.
Shocking.
I know. Yeah, like that every day he was doing, so he was just totally stoned every day. But then it's funny, his co-star, she said, I mean, she didn't know that. To her, like, she thought he was very clear-minded and on the ball during the whole making of the movie. So it's very strange how her perception was that way.
Interesting. They said that on the set he was constantly creating, either drawing pictures, writing lyrics, things like that, which is not surprising, because he was in the 70s. He was dishing out material on a steady basis. Also, he was working on a soundtrack to the album, and quite a few of the ideas for the soundtrack would later be utilized for the album Low. So, fans of the film that would be curious, what would the soundtrack or elements of the soundtrack sound like if there was one by David Bowie, just have to check out that album. And even some of the stills that were used for the movie, they would be featured on other David Bowie albums. Because, you know, David does change his look over the years, but his natural style is just a classic Bowie. You can look at him over the decades, and he really kept himself pretty much the same. Clean shaven, very striking.
You always know him.
You
when
know
you
it's
see
him. Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Interesting thought, though, that there was another consideration for the role in this movie, that being Mick Jagger. Can you imagine how different the movie would be with Mick Jagger in it?
Yeah, that would be different. Well, I mean, because David Bowie is a very handsome man, and then Mick
You
Jagger
don't think Mick Jagger
doesn't quite have the same kind of look. I guess he looks alien enough.
But Mick Jagger would later on get into sci-fi movies, so that's kind of cool. That aspect. But I like the casting, and there was even considerations of Robert Redford, which would have been even more of a departure.
It would have been different. I mean, the film got kind of good and bad reviews from critics, and with the fans, it became a cult classic. But you have to think, I mean, a lot of the fans liked it, just because of David Bowie.
And that's what we have to ask ourselves. Would we like the movie if it didn't have David Bowie in it? I mean, to me, David really carried the weight of the movie. I didn't think the storyline was all that fantastic, but David is just compelling, him as a person. His videos, I've never seen him live, but I like watching the concert videos of him. He's just super talented and just has a magnetism about him.
I can't say I particularly, enjoyed the movie that much, but David Bowie is a good reason to see it.
That's what I'm saying.
And just for the visual effects of the movie.
I thought it was a bit long, too.
It was, wasn't it?
Way too
Because
long.
we were sitting there like, when is this going to
Yeah, I mean, there's just some parts you're like, what is going on here? This is just dragging on. So, yes, I'm glad that I watched it. We're going to watch every movie that's going to be in Starlog. But if it wasn't for David Bowie, I really would not enjoy it at all. That's really what it comes down to.
It was his movie. It's a part of his legend, and yeah, now that he is gone, I mean, yeah, it's just something else to remember him by, and he looked good in it.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks for listening. Make sure you hit that subscribe button and join our Facebook group. Live long, and may the force be with you. Nanu Nanu.